Hey, this is Dimitri with Joe's Gaming and Electronics, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to replace the Bluetooth board on your Beats Studio 3 wireless headphones. The part that I'm going to be using is this Bluetooth board right here, which it is available on our website as well. The link for this part will be in the description below, as well as all the tools that I will be using right here. So first things first, the Bluetooth is located on the left side of the headphones, and we're gonna go ahead and start taking it apart by removing the ear pad first. We do sell this pry tool as well, and we'll be sure to link the link in the description for this tool. Once the ear pad is removed, go ahead and take off the old adhesive. Next step, what you're going to want to do is use the Phillips Plus 1.5 screwdriver. We sell this as well, and we're going to go ahead and remove all the screws that you see on the speaker cup. Once all screws are removed, go ahead and peel the speaker cup and remove any adhesive that you may see. So for this, you're gonna need a solder iron. You could also use a heat gun to free the wires from the area that it is glued in, simply by just kind of lightly running the solder gun over the glue. And while you do that, just pull up, make sure you don't melt the wires, that you're only touching the glue directly. But for this case, I'm gonna go ahead and use the heat gun set at 300 degrees Fahrenheit to kind of melt the glue a little, to peel it up like so. Once all the wires are freed from the contact points that they are glued at, we're going to go ahead and pop the mic bit off. Go ahead and remove the rubber gasket. We're going to go ahead and unsolder this wires from the speaker. Do keep in mind these wires are glued, but the solder iron does melt through the glue. Once you unsolder it, what I like to do is clean off the glue from the points while it's still warm. Just makes it easier. Go ahead and remove any excess glue that you see. Once that is done, we're going to go ahead and set the speaker aside, and we're going to unsolder the wires from the AUX jack. Because there is glue over the solder points, what I like to do is, as I melt each point, I tug on the wire to make sure that once it unsolders, you could pull it out. And while the glue is still warm, go ahead and remove it off the points so that it's a lot easier when it gets to the time where you're soldering these wires back. Once all the wires are unsoldered, we're gonna go ahead and use our flathead screwdriver, which we do sell this on our website as well. It's a 1.5. We're gonna go ahead and remove the circle adhesive so that we could get access to the center screw. Once that is complete, go ahead and remove the center screw. Next step, what we're gonna do once we remove the screw is we're just going to go ahead and peel this cup like so. And what I like to do is I like to take the flat screwdriver, and over here you have like a rubber gasket holding all the wires tight together. I just kind of like to push it through and then go ahead and remove this before you pull any of the wires out. If you don't remove that and you try to force the wires, there's a really good chance that you might damage the mic bit wire, and we're gonna need that for the Bluetooth board replacement. So go ahead and just punch it through like so. Once that is complete, I normally like to clean this up so that when we're assembling the headphones back together, it's an easier, quick and smooth, faster process. Once it is clean, go ahead and set that aside. So next step that we need to do is we're gonna go ahead and remove these 4 screws that are on the inside panel. We're gonna use the flathead, or the Phillips plus screwdriver. What I like to do is every screw that I remove, I like to put it in the ear pad so to make sure I don't lose any, because they are small, and if you do drop one, it could be pretty hard to find. Once all 4 screws are removed from the inside panel, next step that we're gonna do is we're gonna take our flathead and we're gonna gently go in between the tab and pry up so that you pop the tab off. Once the tab is removed, we are ready to take off the panel. And how I like to take off the panel is I like to split it and take the flathead and go in, because it is taped off there, and I just kind of like to agitate the tape and break it loose so that we don't damage the wires when we pull it through and remove the panel like so. Once you do that, you can go ahead and remove this tab, cut it off. I'm just going to use some wire clippers to get that out of the way. And this is our Bluetooth board. So next step that we're going to do is we're going to remove these 4 screws so that we can take the Bluetooth board and pull it away from the left outside panel. Do keep in mind that some of these screws are different sizes. So if you need to group them so that you know which screw goes where, be sure to do that as well. Once all 4 screws are removed, go ahead and pry the Bluetooth board up. And the wires are glued down there, so for this one, you're not going to want to use a heat gun if you do have one. Just go ahead and use the solder iron to lightly soften up the glue so that you could pry this away from the actual board itself, from the panel. Once that is complete, go ahead and pull this mic bit out of this hole, and we're going to go ahead and clean up any glue that is left on the panel. Set that aside and go ahead and remove any glue that might be left on the wire. Once that is complete, what we're gonna do next is we're gonna remove all these wires, because these wires are gonna go onto this new Bluetooth board that we're gonna be putting on these headphones. Sometimes these wires are glued at the points that they connect, and I will show you how to properly disconnect them so that you don't damage the clip. And if there's like any adhesive on the wires that are holding them together, go ahead and remove it so that it's easier to deal with the wires. This one, it just simply comes out. You just want to pull it out. Same as the speaker wire. The only wire that is really glued on there is the mic bit wire, which for that one, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the heat gun and we're gonna just warm it up for a few seconds. You don't want to hold it for too long. 1, 2, 3. And go ahead and just pull on it. Once that is done, go ahead, set it aside, and don't forget to remove the mic wire in the back of the Bluetooth board. Once that is complete, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take the shrink wrap that is on the wires and try to slide it back. Sometimes it won't come all the way back, but just try your best to make sure that you have enough room to work with. And once that is complete, we're going to go ahead and peel this film off. Once the film is peeled off, what I like to do is, instead of removing all the glue, I just melt right through it with the solder gun onto the solder points while pulling each wire individually. Now, if you're taking the left side apart to replace the hinge, if your hinge breaks, what I recommend is every time you unsolder the wires while the glue is still warm, go ahead and remove it. If you're going to be reusing your Bluetooth board, in this case I will not be, so I'm just going to go ahead and unsolder these wires. Once you unsoldered all the wires, go ahead and take your old Bluetooth board and put it aside. Now we're going to use this new Bluetooth board. First things first, what I like to use is a little vise that will hold the Bluetooth board in place while I solder the wires. You don't necessarily need this, but it does make the job a lot easier if you kind of have it slightly elevated. I'm going to go ahead and just the Bluetooth board there, and always add some solder paste or flux to all the points. This is going to help make sure that the wires don't disconnect after you solder them. It does bond them to the points itself and it holds on there stronger. So we're going to go ahead and add the solder paste to the points like so. Once that is complete, we are going to go ahead and move on to soldering the wires onto the points, and it does help if you use tweezers to do this part. And the diagram for where you solder each wire onto the port, we'll go ahead and add a picture for you, a clear picture, so that you can see where you solder each wire. And just to be sure, I'm gonna go ahead and read off the color of the wires where you solder to each point. So the first wire, when you solder these, you wanna make sure that it looks exactly as it did when you first took the power board away from the outside panel, meaning you wanna make sure that the wires are aligned so that when you're assembling it together, it's gonna run smoothly. So the first wire right here that we soldered, it's the black main wire, and on the first point it's red copper. We got blue, we got green, we got red, we got green copper, and then copper. And right here we got the yellow wire. Make sure that you do not intertwine it with the red. We're gonna go ahead and solder the yellow wire onto here, and we're gonna do green on the first point. On the second point we got red, and then we got copper. And with the red wire that is right here, The first point, we have red and green, we got red and copper, black, green, and copper, and then the last wire, which is the blue wire, we got red, blue, and copper. Once all that is complete, we're going to go ahead and release the Bluetooth board from the vise grip. And the next step that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pop this little tab up so that the headphones aren't loose when they slide. And we're going to go ahead and start plugging the wires in. First one, we're going to do the short MS port wire. Make sure that you're plugging it in correctly so that you don't damage any clips on the inside. Once that is complete, we're going to go ahead and plug in the other MS port wire. Then we're going to go ahead and plug in the speaker wire. And last, the AUX jack wire. Once all that is complete, we're going to go ahead and grab our left outside panel. And what I like to do is remove this blue little gasket and put it onto the mic bit before inserting it back into the little opening. Once that is complete, don't forget, pull the shrink wrap back down. And once you do that, go ahead and place the Bluetooth board back into place. When I place it back, I like to make sure that it's gonna run smooth. Make sure that no wires are in the way of one another, and that's just kind of where you adjust the wiring. Like so. When you place a Bluetooth board on there and you're ready to put the 4 screws back in, check and make sure that no wires are showing in the holes so that you don't put any screws through the wire. And it doesn't really matter what order you put the screws in, but me personally, I like to stagger it a little. Once all 4 screws are in, we're going to take the inside panel, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and feed the wires through the opening. Once you have that done, go ahead and press the hinge into the outside panel, and there are rails on both sides, and we're going to make sure that these 2 tabs slide right in, aligned with the panels, like so. Once that is done, go ahead and just push, slide, and sometimes the wires will pop out. That's not a big issue. Just take the tweezers and push them right through. Once you get to this point, go ahead and press it shut, hold it, and check the sliding function. Make sure that it slides, that it doesn't feel like anything is caught in the way. Feels pretty good. So next step, what we're gonna do is we're gonna check all 4 holes, make sure that there's no screws in the way, and once we are clear, we're gonna go ahead and put the 4 inside panel screws in. Once the 4 screws are in the panel and it is assembled and it's running pretty smooth, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the right side tab and we're going to pop it back into place. Simply just slide one end in and then this one, just push it down and it should pop in. Check the function, everything is working good. And next step that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put the speaker cup back on. And we're going to do so by first putting the wires through this opening. I recommend you do the wire with the mic bit first, because if you do the other 2 wires, it's going to be really hard to fit it and you could end up breaking the mic off. So go ahead, just push it in. You could use the flathead to assist. Once you do that, go ahead and pull the other 2 wires through. Like so. Once you have done that, we're going to go ahead and make sure that all these rubber points pop up through these openings. Once you get to this point and you can see all the rubber points through the openings, we're going to go ahead and put the center screw in so that it holds down the cup. Just like that. And we are almost complete with the Bluetooth repair. Once we put the cup on and we put the screw, the next step that we got to do is we got to make sure that we push the rubber tips through the opening. This is to ensure that no sound escapes and you have that clean and crisp noise canceling. So sometimes you're able to use pliers to kind of hook it and pull it through. You don't want to go too hard on the pliers, because if you do cut them, you could be in some trouble. If they're not if you're pushing down on the cup and the rubber tips are not coming through, what you're going to use is a pry tool, and you're going to go on the back side of it and you're just going to push on the end. Like so. You don't want to push too hard so that you don't pierce through the rubber gasket. You're just going to go all along the edges. I like to do half of one side. And I'll just go through with the pliers, hook each end, pull up. Once that side is complete, we're gonna go ahead and do the other half. Same process, just push down on the end, like so. Once it's looking good from this end, we're going to go ahead and flip it back over and use the pliers to hook the ends, pull them through. And this is how it should look when you're complete. All these rubber points should be through all the openings and none should be buried down inside. For this repair, if you do end up damaging any of these wires, do keep in mind we do sell them on our website as well. We'll be sure to link them in the description as well, and we'll add the diagram for the Bluetooth board, and we'll also add the diagram so that you're able to solder the wires back onto the AUX jack as well. Once we get this cup on and everything is good to go, we're going to go ahead and add some solder paste onto the points, and we're going to go ahead and solder the AUX jack wires on. And using tweezers to solder the wires, it really helps. Prevents you from getting burnt and from getting frustrated and angry and completely damaging the headphones if you get burnt. So going from right to left, first wire that we solder on is red, the second wire is black, third wire is green or copper, and the last wire is white. And if we go from left to right, we got white, green or copper, black, and red. Once the AUX port wires are soldered, we're gonna go ahead and set the headphones down like this. And next step is to solder the speaker wires back onto the speaker. We're gonna do the same thing, add solder paste to the points. And if you look, it looks like there's 4 points on the speaker, but you wanna solder on the outside ones where you got the negative and the plus, so the ones that are further out. And for this one, red will always be positive and white will go onto the negative side. Once the wires are soldered, we're going to go ahead and take this blue little rubber gasket, place it on the end of the mic bit, and we are going to pop it back into place, into the little opening. Once that is complete, we're going to go ahead and just tuck these wires into the center, and we're gonna close the speaker cup and the speaker housing together. Once you have done that, go ahead and check all the sides to make sure that we don't have any wires showing. And once you have confirmed that there are no wires pinched, check all the screw holes to make sure that there's no wires in the way so that we don't accidentally put a screw through a wire. Once you have double checked and everything looks good, go ahead and put the screws back into the speaker housing. The 2 screws that hold the AUX jack, they are the silver ones, and the rest of the screws are the black ones. You do want to be careful when you do this as well, so that no screws fly into the speaker, because it is magnetized, and if that does happen, there's a really good chance that you damage the speaker and you'll need to have that replaced. But no worries, because we do sell that as well on our website. We pretty much got you covered. If you're not comfortable with doing the repair on your own, do keep in mind that we do offer a mail-in repair service. All you have to do is go onto our website, joesge.com, and in the top left-hand corner, there's going to be a section that says Repair Services. You just click on that and you fill out the repair form to receive a free shipping label to send your headphones in for a repair. That is if you cannot do the repairs yourself and you would like a professional to do it. So once all the screws are in and everything is good, go ahead and check the function. It snaps, it slides pretty well, everything looks good. Last step that we have to do is place the ear pad back on. We're gonna do that by adding some adhesive on the ear pad. We do sell this adhesive on our website as well, and the link will be in the description. This is some double-sided adhesive tape, and what you're gonna do is the ear pads, they have holes. You want to make sure that the holes on the double-sided tape match up with the ear pads. What I like to do is the side that has the line, I like to point that at me and just place the adhesive, make sure it's all lined up and pretty looking. Once you got it all lined up, go ahead and just seal it, make sure that it's on there, and we are gonna use the flathead to pry the top film so that we could attach the ear pad to the speaker housing. Once we remove the top film, make sure that the line on the ear pad lines up with the AUX jack opening. We're gonna go ahead and simply place the ear pad on like so. Secure it. Bingo, bingo, bongo. And the repairs are complete. And that is how you do a Bluetooth replacement on a Studio 2 or Studio 3 wireless Beats headphone.